Hi there. My name is Ron Rogers, and you may be wondering how did you get a job as a chase pilot out at Edwards in the late 70s? Well, I started out in the Air Force as a T 37 student, and I did fairly well in my class, but at the time in the early 70s, if the base liked you, if the instructors liked you, they had the first option of keeping you as an instructor pilot. And I wanted to fly fighters, but they had first dibs on you, and they told me they were going to keep me as an instructor. Well, the T 37 side had a little more clout than the 38 side at the time, and they kept me as a T 37 instructor. As we all probably know, the T 38 was the cool airplane at the time, but that wasn't the airplane I was in. I was flying a T 37. But at the time, back in the early 70s, we were getting pilots back from Vietnam. Vietnam War was over, and they were having a surplus of pilots. So flying jobs were getting to be very hard to come by. You could have a nice flying job of flying a missile. I mean, you didn't actually get in the missile or hang on to it or fly it or anything like that. You just launched it, which is probably a better thing. But I didn't come in the Air Force to be a pilot and set in a hole in the ground, possibly waiting to launch a missile and help destroy all of humanity. Of course, you could always get a more wonderful job as commissary officer, so you were in charge of a food store. And I didn't go through all of this to be in charge of a food store. So these are called rated supplements, which is a non-flying job that they put a pilot in. Wasn't exciting, and it was actually kind of depressing at the time. Well, I'd heard that a T 37 instructor from Vance, and that's where I was stationed, had gotten a job out at Edwards as a chase pilot. And I'm going, really? So I did a little research. I found out Mike's phone number, and I called him up, and I looked into it, and actually made a trip out to Edwards, talked to them, they liked me. Well, Edwards is a cool place. It's a place of legends. And I wanted to go out there. It sounded really neat. But you needed to come out and have an additional job. You couldn't just be a chase pilot. You had to have an extra little job. So, okay, that's fine. There were several of them available. One of them was as officer in charge of current operations in the command post. That was a really cool job. Um, it was a really high pressure and high visibility job. You coordinated the test aircraft, the chase aircraft, the range. You had to juggle these things around because test aircraft slip even more than airliners do. And they would start slipping into the next scheduled test mission. So you'd have to rearrange chase aircraft, range times, try to juggle this, maybe try to move somebody up. If anything went wrong, you coordinated any sort of emergency recovery activity. And basically, I sat there at a desk with a phone bank in front of me that was a hotline to everywhere. So when the command post called, you answered the phone. So it was kind of a neat position, and I had been in high pressure positions before. I was a radio dispatcher for the sheriff's office in college, and I operated the University of Iowa's satellite Engine 5 at the time. They call them now Hawkeye because that's not a politically correct name anymore, but it was called Engine 5, and I operated it real time, and it was getting towards the end of his life, and there are things you could do to really screw it up. So that was a job that got a lot of attention too. But that was fine. I enjoyed it. I did those well, and I didn't have any qualm about going into a high pressure job. It sounded like a lot of fun. Well, okay, I'm in my early 20s. I'm a first lieutenant. I early in my life had no concept of failure and really no fear, which is before the t shirts came out. But anyway, the previous two people, and there were two openings. The first opening was due to a major who was out there and had done something that the wing commander didn't like handling a situation, and he was fired. So that was my first opening, but training command said I was way too valuable to let go early. Yeah, right. But anyway, they wouldn't let me go. I was very disappointed because you had to have an opportunity to come out there. There had to be an opening position. So, well, that slid. Well, he was replaced by another major, and that major was out there for a while, and then he was fired. So another opening came open, and this time they let me go just a few months early. So I got to go out there and I got in the position. Now, this was a really great time out at Edwards. There was a lot going on. The shuttle landing approaches were going on. The B-1 was in full swing. The F-15, F-5E test mission, the F-16, the A-10. There was just a lot going on. And I got a job coming out as a chase pilot, and I ended up being chase in the T-38. And since I'd had an instructor background, I got checked out as also a flight instructor. So this was really tough duty because I'm giving training to test pilots and future shuttle astronauts. In fact, I gave Dick Scobie, the Challenger commander, his last Air Force check ride before he went to NASA. And I was having a fun time at the current ops and the command post and flying chase and stuff like that. And I had Colonel Pruitt, who was the head of Stanavel out there, who was an F-4 pilot, and this YF-4. Edwards got a lot of bastardized aircraft, ones that couldn't really go back to the command. This was a YF-4. We had Thunderbird F-4 number 5. You could still see the paint on the tail. You could see the stars and the number 5 on it, although it was painted over to look like just a standard F-4. But it was not at all unusual for a pilot to say, "Hey, I'd like to go for a flight," because you could essentially go and get put on the schedule to fly any of the operational aircraft on the base. You couldn't just say, "I want to fly the test aircraft." That didn't work. But if you wanted to fly like an F-4, an A-37, something like that, you could. So Colonel Pruitt came over and wanted to fly the 38 with me. And I go, "Okay, that sounds like fun. Just another mission." And we flew. I was in the back seat as the instructor because he wasn't qualified in the airplane. And we flew patterns and we went up and did air work. And he told me about how great the F-4 was. And I went up and I cross-controlled the T-38, full aileron, full rudder, and says, "You can't do that in the F-4 without departing controlled flight." And we laughed about that, came back, flew a little bit. And we're signing in to test ops. We were done with our mission. And he turns to me and says, "How would you like to come over to Stanabel and be the T-38 senior flight examiner?" This is a job giving check rides to the pilots out there, and it was really quite an honorable and prestigious job. But I've never been too politically adept, and my boss for the last 6 months had been saying how he was going to go over to Stanabel and be the T-38 flight examiner. So I was a little taken back by Colonel's request and comment, and I said, "Well, Captain, not to be named," who was my boss, has been saying for the last 6 months that he's going to come over and be the T-38 senior flight examiner." And I said it with a little bit of question in my voice. Colonel Pruitt kind of moved his head a little bit, looked at me and says, "How would you like to come over to Stanavelle and be the T-38 senior flight examiner?" And I said, "Well, sir, I'd be honored. That'd be a great job." So he turned and walked away, and I'm standing there wondering what the heck just happened. Well, it was a fun job. I was, I guess, the third person who had that job recently who wasn't fired from it, and as in the command post. So they said it was all right for me to go, and I went over and I was the T-38 senior flight examiner and had a great time doing that and had a great time flying chase. And I also got to fly maintenance test flights, and if you've seen my video on losing a canopy at 500 knots, that occurred on a maintenance test flight out at Edwards, so you can also take a look at that. So if you like these, please subscribe and please hit like. Thanks for watching.